Hang on. Now, you're
Okay.
live.
Okay, back at you. We had a little technical difficulty, but I think we're back again. Okay, paradigm changes. One, we have to end violence, all violence, violence of war, violence of poverty, violence of racism, sexism, but especially gun violence and war. We have to end it, and I think most people can agree. Now, the second paradigm change, I think, is one that people who are in this country find very, very difficult to do. And that is, I think that we have to believe that it is immoral and totally wrong to have more than any other human being on the planet. You know, everything in our lives is geared to make us want more, 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 more. And we get rewarded for the more we have, the more status, the more reward we have in society. The less we have, the more down we are in society. I like to talk about how in ancient, just think about this, okay? In ancient Jewish life, if somebody stole something from you, you were the one who was punished. Think about that. We have such a hard time with that. You were punished because you were not supposed to hoard things. You were not supposed to keep things that your neighbor needed or wanted. And you were supposed to count on your neighbor taking care of you the way you would take care of your neighbor. You weren't supposed to tempt people like that. So think about how different our country would be if we believed it was immoral to have more than any other person. And it is. It's totally immoral. And it's why we have sexism, why we have racism, why we have war, to make sure that some people have more and other people have less. And it's gotten, maybe it always has been, to this extreme. I mean, the time that we've been talking right now, how many hundreds of people have died of starvation? Starvation. And not because people are lazy or they don't know how to grow food or they don't care, but because of the way we use land around the world. How we're using other people's lands so they can't even grow food for themselves. And I talk a lot about that in my book. So you have to get my book if you want to hear more about that.
Can you hold up the cover and show the...
But what can I do? A handbook for change. Myself, my community, my country.
And how can people get the book?
But what can I do? .info. My web diva is putting up a brand new website for me. It should be up any day now. .info. I couldn't get .com or .org, so .info. You can go on there. I have a Facebook page. Well, just look at, but what can I do on Facebook, and you'll find me. And, but wait a minute, I have one more thing to say. I have a couple more things to say before I sell my book to you. Can I say a couple more things?
Of course.
Okay. Back to stealing. You know, the simple way in which we define stealing in our country is so fucked up. You know, if somebody is reeling from genocide, reeling from colonization, if somebody's reeling from racism or sexism or poverty, and they try to get something that can help make their lives a little easier, that's called stealing. But when the 6 people who own Walmart have as much wealth as the 30% poorest people in our country, 6 people have as much wealth as, what is that, 130 million people? As 130 million people. That is stealing. That is stealing. I talk a lot about stealing in here, and then how the police, the criminal justice, injustice system, I call it, are all, and all of us, we've all bought in to that. How afraid we are of somebody taking our car, somebody taking whatever. Anyway, when I have traveled around the country trying to organize people, we have what I call blank checks of inaction. I've discovered that when people ask me, but what can I do? They're asking me half the question. There's another half of that question that's not spoken. And it's, but what can I do if I have enough time? What can I do if I have nothing else better to do? What can I do if it's not going to cost me too much? So I identify about 15 of those things that I've heard over my travels. And I call them blank checks of inaction that we give ourselves. We need to give ourselves blank checks of action. We need to do things no matter what. So you can read about those in there. And I want to share with you a story that was shared with me. I went to a kind of an Earth First kind of conference, an environmental conference, and an indigenous woman who was from the Pacific Northwest had gone to spend time with an elder there, and the elder gave her this story, and she gave it to us, and she asked us to spread it, and I call it the salmon story. She was told that a while ago her people were getting ready for salmon season, and they all went down to the river, and they were so excited because the salmon are coming. The first day of salmon season, not one salmon showed up. Have you heard this story?
No.
The second day, no salmon showed up. The third and fourth day, no salmon showed up, and they started to get worried. It's a big ocean, but still, salmon have always showed up. Well, on the very, very last day of salmon season, a few salmon came swimming upstream. So everyone got together, the elders, the children, everybody, and they talked about, what are we going to do? Are we going to let the salmon go and spawn, or are we going to harvest the salmon? So what do you think they did?
Let them spawn.
They decided to let them spawn because they wanted salmon to come back the next year. Well, that winter, over half her people died of starvation. When they made that sacrifice, when they decided to let the salmon go, they knew they were not going to live. They knew they weren't going to make it through the winter. They needed that salmon to make it through the winter. But for her and for us, they let the salmon, they were willing to sacrifice their lives. So I don't think we're going to have to sacrifice our lives, or maybe some of us will have to sacrifice our lives. But I call it a gaining of our humanity. Mm-hmm. Look at the way we're living now. Mm-hmm. You know, we can gain our humanity back if we had it. I think we did have it at some point. It's not a sacrifice, you know, to get rid of the shit in our lives, to live a different kind of life. I talk about, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm struggling to survive. You know, oh, I'm working 6 jobs so I can survive. Look at it carefully. It's not so we can survive, it's so our lifestyle can survive. So we can have a certain lifestyle that we've swallowed, hook, line, and sinker, that we have to have. So those 85% of the people around the world that don't have those 4 things at the same time, they're struggling to survive. Anyway, all through the book I talk about changes that we need to make. Structural changes. It's not enough just to work for one thing, like, okay, universal health care. We can work for universal health care, but we have to know that as long as the delivery of health care stays the same, it's not going to be accessible for everybody. We have got to change everything structurally, you know? So, I do list 10 things in the back of the book that you can do immediately. And I think a lot of you are already doing those things, but in case you're not. And then 10 more things. And I have to say 2 things. Okay. Do you know Starhawk? Okay. So when, a long time ago, when every single fucking congressperson gave Bush the right to go to war, voted, except for my congresswoman, Barbara Lee. She was the only one who said no. I was feeling so hopeless and so like, fuck, 400 and not even John Connors, not even all those other people that were liberal, at least, if not radical, Democrats, voted to give him the right to go to war. So I went to the federal building in San Francisco, and that's where we were having a protest, and Starhawk was there. And she started talking about how I was feeling, how hopeless I was feeling, how it doesn't matter what we do, right? Doesn't matter. Overwhelmed. And she said, when we feel this way, listen to this, it's so brilliant. When we feel this way, we have to know we're falling under the spell of those people in power. They need us to feel helpless. They need us to feel hopeless. They need us to feel like we can't do a damn thing. They need us to be depressed. They cannot function unless we're feeling this way. So we have to step back. It's a powerful spell, it is. It's a mighty powerful spell. We have to step back and say, this is a spell, and I'm not going to fall under it. And we have to cast our own counterspell.
Yeah.
Women, counterspells. Okay, so the other thing I want to say to you, so I'm not saying all this stuff so you can get depressed and so you can get, you know, it's the truth of our country, and those truths can fuel our fury, can fuel our action, and they need to fuel our action. And, oh my God, we are at the cusp right now. We are in such exciting times right now. We will either save life on our planet, or we will allow our planet to be destroyed. Oh my God, it's so exciting, really. This is it. This is it. I haven't felt this way since the 60s, and I'm 68. So in the 60s, I knew me and my peers were going to change the fucking country. You know, we were going to, and we did. We did a lot of things. And then something happened. But anyway, now we have opportunity right now. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I think. Thank you. So invite me to come to your town. I'm so mobile. I have a huge truck and I will come.
Hold up the book.
Book?
You know.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
But what can I do?
There it is.
Okay. But what can I do? .info. All my information is there. There's my cell phone. 404-853-9990. Call me. Email me. I will come anywhere. I'll talk with one person. I'll talk with a whole group of people. Okay? And, yeah, and send me your email because I'm doing a newsletter. Because when I meet with people, one of the most exciting things is coming up with new actions. You know? Talking about... Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you blew through town. I need your energy, Xan Joi. I need it. So I'm really glad you're here. And
I'm glad
later
to be
on,
here.
we're going to post pictures on the WLRN Facebook page of us standing in front of your truck.
My truck. Yes.
So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Madison and
Thank you
being
for
at the
having me.
WLRN House Studio.
Yay.